Okay, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Consistency Podcast. We have a special show for you guys in store. We're going to be having some discussions about different generations in the workplace. So we have a video that we're going to start off with by watching, and then we're going to continue with the discussion. But before we do that, Frank, how you been?
Pretty good, pretty good. First, I want to just shout out the mothers. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers. You're super important to us, and we're really grateful to you for you.
Indeed. Shout out to all of the mothers out there. Hold on, Frank. Can you just give me a test 1, 2, 3 real quick? I just want to make sure.
Test one, two, three.
Okay, we are good to go. So I'm going to now share the video. It's about a 3, 4 minute video, and then we'll have a discussion about that.
Cool.
Include the audio. Boom. Share. Okay.
When I go into the comment sections of these videos, there's a number of videos going around right now talking about this article from Fortune magazine published in January of last year, all the reasons why Gen Z is being fired at alarming rates. Now, I don't want to talk about why this checks out. What I do want to talk about is the number one reason that's been attributed to this, which is a lack of initiative. When I go into the comment sections of these videos, I see a lot of comments like this. Initiative costs more money. Love how jobs want you to go above and beyond, but won't even pay a living wage to, or go above and beyond for you as a worker. Fair enough. What I do see in a lot of these comments is a lack of understanding of what is meant by initiative. So I wanted to offer you a very real and simple example of what initiative looks like so that you understand what's getting people fired and what's getting people promoted. The scenario is this. Your boss comes to you on Monday morning and says, hey, can you reach out to our contact at that company and get them to send you those documents that we need for our big meeting this time next week? You say 10-4. You send an email to that contact at that company. Several days go by. It's now Thursday. Your boss emails you and says, hey, just checking in on those documents. Were you able to get a hold of them? You pause for a minute, double check your inbox to make sure you haven't missed it, and then you email your boss back and you say, hey, I reached out as you asked, but I haven't heard back. Your boss sends you an email and says, hey, can you please follow up? It's really important that we get those documents. You say, no problem. You send a follow-up email. Friday rolls around, your boss emails you and says, hey, checking on those documents, any word? You say, I sent a follow-up email like you requested, but I haven't yet heard back. Your boss emails you and says, have you tried calling, or can you please try calling and getting in touch with somebody? It's imperative that we get our hands on those documents and that we have them in hand for our meeting on Monday. Please let me know. Thanks. You call the company, you ask the receptionist for this person, they tell you that they're out of office, you say, okay, thank you, bye. You email your boss and you say, hey, I reached out and this person is out of office, so I'm not sure what we can do. Your boss says, leave it with me. Scenario 2. Your boss reaches out to you on Monday, asks you to get in touch with the contact at the company to get the documents. You say 10-4. You send an email pretty much right away. 24 hours goes by. You do not hear back. You send a follow-up email to that person. But a half a day goes by. You still haven't heard back. You send an email to your boss that says, hey, I just wanted to give you a little status update on this. I've reached out to this person, haven't heard back. I've sent a follow-up email and I'm waiting for a response. If I don't hear back from them by the end of the day today, I'll be reaching out to the company to see if there's anyone else they can get me in touch with so that we can get those documents in time for the Monday meeting. I just wanted to give you a status update. Your boss says, much appreciated. Thank you. Wednesday rolls around, you haven't heard back, you pick up the phone and you say, hey, I'm trying to get in touch with this person, wondering if they're out of office. If so, is there anyone else who can help me in their absence? I'm trying to get a hold of these documents. You do some talking, you do some triangulating, you get your hands on those documents, you attach them to an email to your boss, end of day Wednesday, maybe morning Thursday, and you say, did some running around, got our hands on the documents. Please let me know if there's anything else you need in advance of that meeting on Monday. Your boss says, you're my hero, thanks. Now, I also want to note that person 2 has done no overtime work and has not completed any tasks outside of their pre-assigned job. But I will highlight that they demonstrated an incredible amount of initiative to reach the outcome. So it's not just the task completed that's directly assigned to you, but it's understanding what the goal is, what are the outcomes you're going for, And what are the tasks that you can take the initiative to complete in order to achieve that outcome without somebody constantly following up on you?
Okay. So that is that. Stop presenting that. Okay, so let's get your thoughts first and
No, no,
foremost.
no, no. I'm gonna let you start because if I start, I'll probably take up the whole time. You can see that I was vibrating over here as
Yeah.
I was listening. And actually, I want you to start because, you know, if I'm not mistaken, you are part of that generation. And so, and people who follow us know that obviously I feel that you're exceptional. I definitely want to get your feedback and what your thoughts are. And let's start there. My
Okay.
thoughts are pretty predictable.
Okay. So I thought this was a very insightful video for me because especially I think anyone coming into the workforce these days doesn't have we don't have that clear cut expectation ever verbally translated to us. So I would say that for one, especially working in corporate jobs, I think it's a little easier to, in my opinion, to take initiative in like a blue collar type job, like where you're doing construction, like you see things are unfinished, and pretty much everyone is staying constantly busy on a blue collar jobs are the ones that I've worked. Even in a restaurant job or delivery jobs, people always have like specific tasks that are never really done. Um, when you get into a corporate setting the problems become a little bit more abstract. So there's not just one single way to do it. So like she said, I need to get a hold of, if you need to go get some documents from somebody, the person who's telling you to get the documents may not tell you, or they're not going to tell you all the steps that you need to take in order to get those documents. So they might tell you, okay, this person has, we need the documents from this person. And so when you hear that, you're thinking, okay, reach out to this person. And the documents, a lot of people probably in my generation and Generation Z, because I'm a millennial, we hear that, we're like, okay, once I make this person aware that we're in need of documents, it's now on that person's plate to provide those documents. So we're looking kind of only one step into the process. Like, okay, once it was relayed to me to get the documents, and so now I go to the person who has those documents, let them know that those are needed, and then that's where it stops. But now where she's saying, but it's not necessarily, it's when you run into those, oh, this person isn't available, and let's say that you're asking, let's say you have to ask another supervisor for those documents. So you're in a place, you have someone who superior authority telling you to do something or to obtain something from someone else with superior authority over you. So it's like you're coming over as like a young worker, an intern, whatever, and you don't want to feel like you can demand some of these documents from someone who is superior in the work hierarchy from you. So I think that's a little discouraging for young people in the workforce, kind of understanding that their assignment does give them authority to reach out to other people, but if no one ever sits down and explains that to you, you don't necessarily feel comfortable blowing up another manager's phone who you don't typically deal with. So it's like you send them a message, and different teams have different ways of communicating. I know at the company that I'm currently working with, they communicate much more over emails than like Teams or Slack for people who work in like a corporate environment and use those communication tools. And so that's a whole different way of communicating than I've been accustomed to in the past. Because normally you need something, you send somebody a Teams message, and then they're kind of expected to get back to you within the next couple of minutes if you hit them on Teams, because that's like a text message. so
Within minutes. Okay, there you go.
so you're expecting a quicker response, but on email that time kind of lingers because you're like, well, you don't know how many emails they're getting, you don't know if they're online. So it's things like that I think get start to get a little hazy when it comes to especially people who are starting a fresh new job. Um so when they're tasked with reaching out to other people, and then those other people not necessarily, because it's like anytime you're contacting somebody at work, you're adding more work to that other person's queue. So you may need, this may be your top priority, but this might be their last priority to answer to you, somebody who they don't know, asking about some random documents that you haven't seen in a couple of weeks. So you might ask them on Monday, and then they don't get back to you until probably like Tuesday afternoon, possibly. Like, so you
So,
really never know.
so let me chime in. You said a lot of really important things, and I don't even know where to start in how important the things that you've said. First of all, thank you for that clarification because it's easy to clump the generations together, but there is a difference for sure in terms of how things play out. Even though you probably know that Gen X, my generation, has given the millennials a hard time, and the Gen Zers have gotten it even worse. Um, the first knock that is probably very appropriate that belongs to Gen X and the baby boomers is that in some cases, we are not doing a good enough job of laying out the vision, whatever the vision is for the organization. And you raise a good point. People have to be empowered. In other words, when folks are being trained, which um, in many organizations, the training is lax.
Super.
The training is a light touch. So sometimes with the boomers and the Xers, there's this expectation that the person coming in because of their degree should know what to do.
Right.
That's not that's not how that works. There is still some training that's necessary. Now, with all of that being said, as far as the initiative piece, I can understand why you would say that it can be tricky because I myself was in a situation recently where I was invited into a project super last minute. When I say super last minute, super last minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm somebody with quite a bit of bandwidth and experience. Yet, if you're invited into a situation at the last minute and it's not your everyday experience, then you do need an understanding about where your authority begins and ends. Because especially if you're new in an organization, the last thing you want to do is infuriate some higher up in
Right.
another organization.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that you spoke to this first because this this is multi-layered. Now, with all of that being said, it's been my experience that as an educator, because that's where I land first and primarily.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in that situation where I've laid out what the expectation was. And I think we may have talked about this on this platform before.
Mm-hmm.
I think, especially with a number of Gen Zers, because of the technology, because of Google, because of GPT chat and a myriad of other tools that exist, I think sometimes a person underestimates their part because they feel like they can just Google something or the technology will do the work for them. Kind
Mm-hmm.
of going back to what you said, when they sometimes the person isn't doing enough themselves. They think that the technology, once they have initiated the technology, initiating the technology would be enough. For an example, okay, I've sent the email, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it it takes some human follow up because the person has to actually respond to the technology. The technology in and of itself is not going to cause that other person to do what needs to be done on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, there's definitely a gap. And I do appreciate the way that you presented it because it also shows that sometimes the person that's giving the assignment may not be doing enough on their end as far as clarity and so forth.
And one other thing with that is, I think with her, what she was saying is communication is the bigger aspect of it, because person one, both people sent the email, so they both did the task. The only thing extra that the second person did was just communicate a little bit more as opposed to what the status is of it. And that's one thing that I've had to learn over my time as being a developer or working in corporate. But that's something that, you don't come in instinctually knowing how, or kind of understanding what's over communication, because your manager is probably busy as well, or whoever assigned you that task. So at the beginning, you're kind of in a situation where over communicating may come off as incompetence in a way. So, or sometimes you feel like you're getting to a point where you're asking too many questions. So it's like you reach out to somebody and then they don't hit you back. So now you can go, and in that way, when you go tell it's better to go and tell your whoever made the assigned you the task. Okay, I have reached out to this person, just so you know, I haven't heard anything back. But when you first get to a company, you don't want to feel like, okay, I need a baby step or to be walked through this whole process. It's like, okay, I did step one. Now you have to kind of gauge how long it's going to take, or what's the reasonable time for you to receive a response. So in the situation with person A, if you don't know the person who you're reaching out to, maybe you don't want to blow them up either. So it's like, if you don't hear anything from them, you kind of want to give them a day realistically, if this is your first time ever in communication with them and nobody's giving you a proper introduction. So I know I've had to reach out to people, and normally people don't leave you hanging for a full day, but there's times when it could be a couple of hours. So you're not there top of priority. They have the other person who you reached out to has meetings. So it's really the bigger thing to me is more communicating when you do something, and that's any job you have to make sure that you have the visibility on the things that you're actually doing. So doing it is one thing, but letting other people know, that's hard for a lot of millennials and Gen Z do, or like letting people know what you're actually doing is the step that a lot of people who've been at the company for 20 plus years are looking for. That's the type of communication they're looking for, but they're not explicitly telling you that that's the type of communication they're looking for.
Now, I will say this, that sometimes in the workplace, one of the challenges is that while it is important for the employer, the bosses to take the time to understand who's on their team, I think part of the big gap today is that a lot of people who are entering into the workplace are young in the workplace, because they can even be, you have Gen Zers who are in management, and they've already gotten into management positions.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've heard in conversations is there's this expectation that management needs to understand Gen Z. And that's fine and well. Management should do their due diligence to try to understand the workforce. But from my perspective, if someone is employing you, if someone's signing your check, the onus is more on you to understand them than vice versa. And I think that might play into why a lot of folks end up getting fired, because if a if a manager says, I need this ASAP, then you have to be able to figure out okay, because in most of the situations that I've experienced, especially when you're talking corporate, and as you move higher up in corporate, the manager is juggling several things, him or herself.
Mm-hmm.
So when that person reaches out to you and say that they need something ASAP, you may not have the opportunity to go back and forth with them while you have them captive or communicating with you about it. Any question that you can think of, and this speaks to what you were talking about, because I think when an assignment is given, that's the time to get clarity, get an understanding. Because then if you fall in the rabbit hole and then you second guessing whether or not you should go back hours later to ask questions, and sometimes you do need clarity hours later. My point is that if you allow too much time to elapse without clarity, this person, when they say ASAP, it usually means yesterday that they need it.
Mm-hmm.
And once and going back to the example of the video, what you really don't want is for the boss to take the job back from you. You don't want that. Now, in most of the situations that I'm aware of, usually a person isn't going to get fired for something like that happening once. I think the issue because let's also remember that you often, unless it's in fast food or something, because in fast food the turnover is astounding,
Mm-hmm.
and they've kind of unfortunately accustomed themselves to a revolving door. Even though Chick-fil-A has shown that it doesn't have to be swinging as fast as it does, because their turnover, from what I understand, is not as high as some of these other fast
Article that
food
came out that
establishments.
said Gen Z is
Mm-hmm.
But employers really don't want to fire you because if they've hired you and they made the investment of doing some ramp up with you, again, my pushback from the beginning was that with a lot of organizations, they don't do a good enough job training on the front end and then casting the vision so that the people coming in really understand thoroughly what the vision, because the top organizations, they do a good job of that.
Mm-hmm.
Nike, Google, we can go down the line. And then the mediocre organizations, they usually don't do a good enough job of that.
Right.
So so they really don't want to fire you. Usually the problem is that this person has not been able to fulfill their obligation over and over again.
Okay. I actually have another video that um kind of pertains to this. I hope I can speed it up a little bit. It's a little longer. I'm gonna try. If it gets too long, then we'll just cut it and have a discussion. But give me 1 second while I do this.
All right. And while you're loading it up, I'll just fill the space by saying this. I was having a conversation with one of my students just today, and this is something that I always encourage young people to do, and that is to take the time, take the initiative to learn more. There are things that you can learn aside from what your manager or your boss is teaching you. There's videos that exist that probably address whatever it is that you're trying to learn. There's a whole libraries. And that, to me, that's the area where enough initiative is not taking place.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Hopefully, I can hold it on here, like on regular TikTok, and speed it up. But if not, we'll get through as much. I think it's about a 6-minute video. So if I can speed it up, it'll be about 3. So let's see.
are getting fired left and right, right? Look, I don't know why this is a surprise. Didn't they come up with the same article last year? I won't be a manager again because of it. Like, let me tell you, one of the items that were listed in the multiple reasons why Gen Z are getting fired left and right is because they don't take initiative. And the response is, well, you don't pay me extra to take initiative. That's not what initiative means. I.e., here's the problem. Hey, Emma, here's a task that I would like to be completed by the end of the day. Here you go. You went through the interview process. You've worked here for about 3 weeks. I know that it is something new, but I believe that you know how to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. Cool. Cool. Here comes 4 o'clock. I haven't gotten it back. No indication anything's done. Let me go ahead and talk to Emma. Hey, Emma, that assignment, did you finish that? You know, we're about to end for the day. No, I couldn't finish it because I didn't know how to do it. What do you mean, Emma? When we say initiative, it means, did you call somebody to ask them? Did you come to me? Did you Google? You just sat here all day and didn't do it because you didn't know how to do it? But this is the worst part. Okay, you know what? I'm going to take responsibility for this. I didn't go through the process to see if you knew what you were doing. Let's go ahead and go through the training process. My bad. Okay. So what part did you get stuck on? You got stuck on step 3. Okay. All right. So what part of this is confusing to you. You don't know. All right. Well, let's go ahead and push this button here. Okay, you're going to push that button there. None of this looks familiar to you. Even though you're doing something very similar over there. None of this. Okay. You're going to push this button here. Are you retaining this at all? You're not writing anything down. Keep in mind, I know you don't have the attention span for this. I know that you can't remember shit. I'm 48 and I smoke weed. And I'm looking at you and saying, please take out your notebook. But then when I ask you to take out your notebook, now I'm being pushy. Okay. So we're going to sit here and go through this process step by step. I'm literally going to hold your hand the whole time.
You have to pause it. I apologize. Please pause it. Now, let me say, I have to jump in, and then I'm going to let you talk, because I know you've got some things to say. If you want to annoy me, then have me showing you something, and you're in a position where you can take notes, and you take no notes. Only a small percentage of the people that I run into have photographic memory. This percentage, and she's right. It's absolutely insane to have someone going over the information that you said that you need, and you're not showing what you are doing to retain it. Because my experience, and she probably is going to say this, is that that same person is going to come back incapable of doing what you just showed them. And they didn't take any kind of initiative to capture what you explained when you were showing it to them.
Yeah. Yeah, hold on. Let me see if this is.
So.
Okay, hold on. Let me get back to. Actually, this was another one I did. Did I go the wrong way before?
So there's an article that came out that said Gen Z is. But then when I asked you to take out your notebook, now I'm being pushy. It just bothers me. That bothers me. Like, we've been through this. You've done this before. If you had taken notes, it would be smoother, but you didn't take notes. So now we're going to go through the process again. We get all the way up to step 3 and you can't even pick it up. Like, your memory doesn't even kick in. With me, sometimes I just need a little boost. Like, oh, I remember. Thank you. I got it. I can take it from here. None of that takes place. They literally will sit there and want you to pick their hand up and hit the buttons for them. Any type of discomfort, any type of unfamiliarity, any type of anything that's less than you got it the first time and we praise you for getting it, it's like their brains shut down. Then you add on the fact that they call out sick all the damn time. So we got a combination of you don't take the initiative to do the job. You can't retain the information on how to do the job. You get very emotional when any type of discomfort presents itself, and you call out sick all the time. You're fired. And then they get fired and be like, what do you mean? No one ever taught me. You should have shown me. And I can't help it if I get sick. There is a difference between we're trying to go against the system to create something new that not only the employer and the employee will benefit versus you just don't want to be told what to do. You just don't want to come to work. You just get mad and upset and angry anytime you don't get a gold star. I'm all for rebellion. I know this whole system needs to be revamped, but just standing in the middle of the room and looking crazy and not finishing the work is not it. You have to be able to.
Man, we could.
So.
Okay, so now I'm gonna have. That's definitely one perspective. This young lady, I would say she might be my age. She's probably like a millennial. So this is from the other perspective. So I just want to make sure we kind of keep things balanced. So this is
keep it balanced. Huh?
This is a lady complaining in their mental state. So this is kind of the mental state that the other lady was speaking to. I think I found them completely differently, but I think it kind of matches up. So
I decided to call out from work today because I didn't feel like participating in the Matrix. I'm currently at the park, which, as you can see, it is a beautiful day, and I'm so glad that I decided not to um, log in today because I have just been having like the worst trouble with work lately, and I thought maybe I'd come on here and like share my experience because I'm sure I'm not the only person, but I am someone who has never liked any jobs that I've ever had. I've liked the people there, but I never liked any jobs. I've like left jobs to go work at different jobs, and I never missed the job I left. I always missed the people. And so currently, like I turned 35 last month, and things are really hitting me now that like I don't really have a career necessarily. Like I don't feel like there's been any like real career progression for me in any of the fields that I've worked in, and I've worked in a few of them, and I've even tried to like do my own thing with real estate, and I recognize now that I'm just not one of those people that is very career minded, and I've carried a lot of shame about that for a really, really long time because I see like the people around me, especially people who are my age or younger, who are like progressing in their chosen careers. And all throughout, like before I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life career wise. And when I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I tried out multiple majors, and I just ended up graduating with a very basic major, just to graduate, just to say that I did it. And since graduating from college, which was a really long time ago, like over 10 years ago, which is crazy. I feel like time just flies. But once I graduated, I just kind of been all over the place my entire life. And I've had plenty of different jobs where I feel like I've done well. I've never been fired from a job. I have been laid off. So I've been laid off twice. And each time that I've been laid off, I have loved that time of being laid off. I'm sure people probably think I'm crazy. Like when I think about being laid off, I'm like, don't threaten me with a good time. Like it's one of the best things
I'm
ever
sorry,
to
but
me
you
because
got to
I
pause
really,
it. You got to
yeah,
pause
yeah.
it. So, considering what we talked about the last show, and this was brilliant that you came back with this show in many ways, because we don't have time to delve into this, but I'm going to bet that some of these issues that translate in the workplace also translate in relationships, because some of the same skill sets that make a relationship, i.e., marriage, work, also show up in the workplace. And speaking of work, I'm just going to put this out there, and then I'm going to either let you talk or let you continue.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what the big problem is with a lot of the new entrance into the workforce. This is not everybody, but it's a lot of folks. And this is the issue. It's simple. I don't know. The light won't let it see, and
I
it's
see.
showing upside down. But the issue is work.
Mm.
That's what the problem is. Because, I've been fortunate to be an entrepreneur and do it full time for a number of years. And the challenge, and I guess we need to do a show on that. The challenge that people have, like she said, she did real estate. And you and I have talked about this, Dre. A lot of people jump on these videos, and a part of them wants to be an influencer.
Mm.
Whether you go into real estate, whether you go into influencing, if you are going to be sustainable in those industries, you must work. You can't get around that. Now, some of these people might do well to get a sugar mama or sugar daddy, and then that'll be their way to be taken care of, and they can goof off in the park every day. But for me, the real issue is the person doesn't really want to work. And I want to say one more thing. And so this is where some of the blame for this comes back to parents, because from generation to generation, I think this issue has gotten worse and worse. I think about my grandfather. He was the kind of guy who he was a rough and tumble type of guy, and he seemed to adore the word work, and had a problem when we were playing. And I think that each generation has given less and less responsibility to their children. And as a consequence, once their children became adults, they were used to being coddled. I'm going to give you a simple example. Growing up, I remember from literally from kindergarten forward, I was walking myself to school and or getting on public transportation to get to school. And I compare that with my own children. My own children were chauffeured to school until they got to high school,
Right.
where they could walk to school right down the street. And simple things like that is the difference maker. And so if been if you spent your whole life and not had hardly any responsibility growing up, when you become an adult, why would you expect to all of a sudden become responsible?
Yeah. I also think, like, people were able to work younger in in previous generations. Some people now aren't getting their first job until they're completely done with college. So it's like instead of you're missing out from what some people used to be able to work as young as 12 to 22, you're missing out 10 years of experience that somebody in Gen X might have, or the previous generation might have, or already came in with that experience, and then they've been at this company for 20 to 30 plus years. So now you're seeing the vast difference in just what the job actually means to somebody as well, because as she's saying, these jobs aren't as appealing because she's coming into it at 10 years ago, so she started maybe 25 years old working. I don't know if she'd worked prior to that, but now especially when you're working the type of jobs that we're working now, because they're the salaries that a lot of Gen X and Millennials and Gen Z are making would have been enough to support family themselves in previous generations. So I think that part it's hard for people to conceptualize that, okay, I'm making all this money, but I'm still not, like, people still feel like they're living below poverty, even though they're getting money, they have all this responsibility, but now they're not living a luxurious lifestyle as we were kind of promised if we went to school, got a good job. And so now we're not reaping the benefits that were being sold to us originally. And so I think that's starting to cause a lot of the burnout that we're seeing in our generations now.
You raised a good point, but I think people are expecting those promises way earlier too. Uh, I know of people who are expecting those promises in like 5 years. And again, one of the things that I think has made things very different, and we've talked about this, is the fact that we can follow celebrities around. We can they can take the camera into the bathroom while they're using the toilet and all that. And so now, if a person is watching these videos 24/7, the lifestyles of the rich and famous, and feeling like, wow, I really want that lifestyle. The reality is that a high percentage of those people who have that lifestyle did not inherit it. You do have some who have, and sure enough, many of the people who belong to the so-called numerical majority in this country have had advantages due to white supremacy and so forth in obtaining and accumulating the things that they have. But by and large, this fantasy of simply being taken care of, but because there's there's a lot of mythology around the housewife, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The women from yesteryear who were housewives, they they had work to do. They weren't just sitting around watching TV all day. They actually had to take care of the children and the house. So there was actually work that they did.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's this idea that some guy, some wonderful eligible bachelor, millennial bachelor is going to sweep said woman off their feet, and she will just wander around getting her nails done and her hair done. And typically, the guy who is earning on that level is he's not looking to have someone to sit around and just watch reruns of BET movies all day. And going back to the last episode, clearly the women are fed up with these guys who are just playing video games all day and getting low. So on either side, all of this brings us back to last week's show for me, because we need a whole new reset. What people are thinking is completely detached from reality on both sides.
Okay, right. I gotta go. There's a one of my speakers is messing up. I'm gonna play the rest of this video while I go fix that. So I'll be right back, but I'll play the video.
Okay.
I don't like jobs. I won't say that I don't like working, but I've never been the type to like feed into the corporate politics, or I'm not the type of person that feeds into hierarchies. So like, you can be my manager, you can be the CEO, and it's not that I don't respect you. I see everybody on an equal playing field. Like, I'm not going to treat you different or act differently because you have this specific role. And people don't like that. And so in the current job that I'm in, I just started it 6 months ago. I went from before I started this job, I was trying to do real estate, which I got my license, and I'm like, okay, let me actually try to do this since I got laid off in like December 2024. So I was like, okay, let me just put my all into real estate and finally use my license. And I ended up working for a new home builder, and I really did not like it. I was like, yeah, let me get the hell up out of here. I'm not a salesperson. I am a terrible salesperson. I'm not a natural at it, and it's a lot of like hard work to learn how to be a salesperson when that's just not your thing. Like, competition does nothing for me. I'm not a competitive person. I don't really like talking to people that much, or I guess talking to people in a way to try to persuade them to buy something. And so I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. Let me go back into like corporate operations or whatever. So I've been working in a job in accounting for 6 months, and I thought I was doing okay. Like, I thought like, okay, I'm growing, I'm learning. This is something new that I've never done before. And I thought that I was doing okay. And then reality struck when my manager pretty much told me everything I'm doing wrong. Like, literally, we had a meeting a few weeks ago where she just like went down the list of everything that I have been getting wrong, from like, they don't want me to like listen to have my headphones in and like listen to music or watch like YouTube videos or whatever during work. And it's like, okay, I get it. Other
This
people do
can't
it,
be,
but okay. Like, I guess I won't do it.
you gotta be
But
pranking us, Blake. This
they
can't be
want me
real,
to
is
stay in my seat as much as possible. And I didn't even realize it, but like, I guess I do take frequent breaks. But it's because in reality, I don't like this. These are things that I do in order to survive in corporate, to survive in a 9 to 5, which is so unnatural to me.
Yeah, I want to stop it right there because I know a lot of people. This is a big struggle for a lot of people, the surviving corporate, because it really does feel like the Hunger Games in corporate these days. Like, nobody really wants to be there, but everyone is now. I think so many people understand that they're forced to be there to kind of sustain a certain level of living, and that's the part that then starts to freak them out. Like, you can see some of the comments left. Working a 9 to 5 is like being locked up for 8 hours. Like, it really. And I have that same angst a lot of times go to work, and it's like it's not necessarily too difficult, but it's just so many other things you would rather be doing. And when you don't actually see the, I would say, benefits of your efforts a lot of time in corporate, because a lot of times you're just doing tasks that are just so a part of what you're supposed to be doing, nobody even notices. So, or you don't feel, people don't say anything when they notice. So, you can be, working as hard as you can, and you not getting any type of recognition. So then it's like, okay, am I doing the right thing or am I doing the wrong thing? If I stop doing it, is anyone even going to care? So a lot of people start to get that feeling as they continue to work. Yeah, I think that is such a shared feeling amongst the younger generation when it comes to working these days. And I don't really know how to, like, she said that she tried real estate, which real estate is very tricky to me because that's a whole, it's like another type of corporate, but it's still, a job where there's set ways to do things. And yeah, you have to be a salesperson, which, if you want that, sales is the only place where you can kind of, the more effort that you put in, then the more return you'll get. And I think that's what a lot of people want out of jobs. So it's like, if I do 100 reports, I want to get paid more than if I did 50 reports. But if you don't, then you're like, well, then why am I going to spend my time doing 200 reports if I'm going to get the same as I was paid when I was doing 50? So that's where the motivation starts to linger, or I guess kind of starts to fade out for a lot of people in our generation, because there's no way to increase our income based off of the output that we're doing at work, and unless you're then playing the corporate games and getting promoted and things of that nature.
Now, I do want to address something she said, because as human beings, yes, we all on one accord. We all God's children.
Mm-hmm.
However, in a workplace, there is a hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea that I'm looking at the supervisor just like he's or she's on my level, that's mistake number one. It's like and I don't know that I don't remember all the different names of the ranks in the army, but I do know a 5-star general, he's way up there. And if you decide to address him like you would address somebody that's going through boot camp, you're gonna have a hard time because that's not how that works.
Yeah.
and the person, the entrepreneur in some cases who started that company and, stayed up all night and sacrificed and ate noodles in order to build the company. And now you just walk through the door and you see yourself on on an even plane with this person. That's clearly it's not working out for her. She can believe that all day, but it's not working for her. Yes, we're all the same as humans, but in the company you have to understand that, okay, this person is the boss. And you can always walk off and start your own thing, but unless you do that, you have to recognize there's a hierarchy in the workplace.
For sure. All right, let me see. I don't know exactly how much, or I forgot what else she talked about. We'll listen for a couple more minutes. I haven't seen the message that will get cut off of Teams yet, so I'm gonna try and push a little further and go.
Think that if I left the job today, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't think twice about it. And so, I hope you guys can hear me because this wind is crazy. So like I got so upset. Like I literally cried after this meeting with my manager where she pretty much broke me down because I really felt like I'm doing a good job. Like I'm learning the job and I'm feeling good about this, but it's like I'm never a fit for anything that I do. And I don't know if anybody else has ever felt this way. Like it's like I do the job well enough. I do the job well enough to not be fired and to get things done, to be productive, but I don't climb the ladder. I don't do the most. I don't like go above and beyond in order to make myself look good. I don't play corporate politics because truthfully, like it's just not in my nature to do that. And so I'm now at a point where it's okay, I'm 35 and it's like I'm not a baby anymore. I have to like take things serious, but it's like I recognize as well though that that'll never be me. I'll never be that person that excels in these roles. And I think that's the hardest part about it being my age and recognizing there's certain things that are unchanging about me. And the more I try to change it, the more I try to mold myself to be somebody else, the more unhappy I'll be. And so the problem is I don't know what else I would want to do. I don't want to do anything. I don't even want to do the job I'm doing. Obviously because I'm at the park and I'm supposed to be working today, but no. So it's just an interesting time in my life where it's like I would it's not that I don't want to work. I just don't want to participate in this type of work where it's like 9 to 5 and working for a corporation where I'm making people whose roles are above mine richer and richer, while I just make a basic salary and then I'm pretty much chained to a desk for 8 hours a day. It's really difficult, but it's like I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to set myself up for failure in life by just quitting, and I don't really know what to do, but maybe somebody else relates to this. So
You need a coach.
Yep. So that is. I think that's a pretty full scope of what the current job scene looks like right now. So we have young people who aren't buying into, because I think that's what a lot of it has to do with, are we buying into the corporate culture of whatever position that you're in? So whether that's at Google, Amazon, your Pizza Hut, or Chick-fil-A, wherever you're working, are you buying into that culture? And if you don't buy into that culture, it becomes very difficult to sustain a level of interest in a job where the pay isn't actually awarding you any better life circumstances. And in some cases, the work life balance then starts to have a negative effect on your life. And so then we start to see people, trying to travel more or spending more frivolously on things that they might not need, just to kind of make up for the fact that they're so stressed out at work. Um, so yeah, but I think there's a very big issue that's going to continue to grow at this rate. But I also wanted to mention this. I think it's also because millennials aren't getting the opportunity to advance in as fast as they probably would in the workplace, because Gen X isn't retiring as frequently as they're supposed to, or they're at the point where, or people who should be at retirement age now also still need an income, because a lot of them may not be able to survive off of social security alone. They don't have retirement plans. So the workforce is now, we're about to be cramming 4 generations of workers into one force. Salaries haven't really increased. There also is some jealousy for Gen X people coming in as Gen Z, who obviously don't want to do the same type of work but getting the same salaries and stuff. So that's definitely a big issue in a lot of the workplaces, because there's a little resentment of like, why should I show you how to do something that you're already making more than me in doing? So I know there's a lot of those feelings that happen in the workplace. So things aren't looking too great for the workforce. I don't really know where things go from here. Do you have any, I guess, suggestions or words of encouragement for young people coming in, or people who your generation who's still in, and how to help some of the newer hires get up to speed?
First of all, uh, as you said, there are a lot of people who fit in the category of that young lady. And there are people called career coaches. And so I would recommend that people consider going to coaches, going to people like the executive functioning coach that we had on our show some weeks ago. Because one of the things that you said that was very insightful, Dre, was that you learned at some point when you were in college, I think it was, that okay, there's something I need to do differently. And you were able to see it for yourself. That's typically not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, they don't realize that there's a gap. And if the person doesn't take the initiative, there go that word initiative, to recognize that there's something that's separating them. Because if that young lady that was talking, and part of the reason why she kept bringing up her age is because she knows some people that she went to school with that are excelling. And she's comparing. To a certain degree, a lot of us play the comparison game. But you need people would do well to sit down with someone who can help them to sort things out, help them to identify their purpose. Now, I happen to be one of those coaches that help people to do that. Then you have those folks who are career coaches. They specifically help people to figure out what career fits them based upon their personality. Some of us do personality assessments to help people to figure out whether they should seek a corporate job, or whether they should seek a blue collar job, or whether they should work with people, or whether they should work with things. Again, most people aren't able to figure that out on their own. They need someone, and it's worth, I can't remember if it was, I can't remember who it was, but it seemed like it was somebody on our podcast that said that sometimes you have to make the investment in yourself. And the investment when you are at your wits end, which this young lady was, sometimes you need an answer. You need a coach. You need someone that can guide you. That's why people like Tony Robbins make so much money,
Mm.
because these people who are mega wealthy, they have coaches. Oprah, you name it. All those people have coaches. And so folks who are struggling, they always say, "Well, I can't afford a coach," but you can afford a Fendi bag, and you can afford to eat out every night. So get started. And as a financial coach, the one thing that is true is that usually these people who are always well capable of banging out of jobs and calling in well every other day, they have the most expensive taste. So it doesn't add up. You've got the most expensive taste in the world, but you're not interested in applying yourself in such a way that you can accumulate the funds that will support the lifestyle.
Right.
Like this lifestyle, it's a fan. It's even in the movies they don't portray that you come across this lifestyle without doing something. Anyway,
Nah, okay. I think I think that was a really good episode. Got to cover a large spectrum of ideas. Um my words of advice is try and follow what or listen to what they were saying in some of those first two videos. Just as guidance, like, maybe you heard yourself in what some of them were describing, and what you can do is just try to take a little bit more initiative. I know it's something that I've had to learn over the years. I've gotten much better at it. Like when I first heard those videos, I was like, oh yeah, that was definitely me when I first got into a job. And you gotta be forgiving of yourself because you really don't know. Like especially if you're someone who does value working hard. That's the thing. Working hard in corporate is completely different than working hard in a blue collar job. Because in a blue collar job, you can kind of just go in and increase your output. In corporate, sometimes there's not more output to increase, so you just have to find unique ways in order to make sure people know that you're getting work done. That's the biggest thing. You have to over communicating if you're young in the workforce. It's not gonna hurt you as much as it would hurt you by under communicating. I'll say that. So you don't want to have them say, okay, you don't need to tell me all of this, as opposed to them wondering what you're doing throughout the day. So just if you do something and it's gonna take a while, just shoot your manager or your team lead quick message. It doesn't even have to be a formal email. Just let them know, keep them in the loop. That's all they want. Just continue giving them status updates, because what a lot of managers have to do is summarize all of the statuses of everybody on their team. So if you don't have any updates, that makes the manager's job harder. So try and make it easier. That should be your goal. Try and make your manager's job easier by one, not having to chase you down for things. So that means that is completing things by due dates. That should be number one. Number two, make sure that you're exercising all of your resources before you go seek help. I would say, I think that's big. Just making sure that you've exhausted every tool that you have available to yourself prior to going to help. And I've seen that help me a lot. And really, my new cheat code is ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT. And for the way I use it is to kind of help me reveal some of the next steps that I should take. And you know, I have no problem asking, okay, I just got this email. They're looking for me to do this. What would be the best course of action to approach this? And now that gives me steps. It gives me the first steps I should do, or where I should possibly look for something if I'm unfamiliar with it. And then it also gives me some suggestions on communication. So maybe your job won't allow you to use ChatGPT, but if you're at an organization that allows you to use Copilot or Claude, or they have their own personal AI chatbot, use that to your advantage in order to figure out what the next steps are that you need to take in order to make sure that you're performing to the best of your ability.
The last thing I wanted to say is very common for people, especially if they work in corporate, to say, I don't play corporate politics. Well, let's understand that the word politics merely means how people relate to each other as far as power is concerned. And so you're gonna have to relate to people in terms of how power is concerned, whether you do blue collar or corporate, period. And so you often the people who say that are saying it because, for an example, they don't want to have to uh, rub shoulders with certain people in order to get up to the next level. And I think the key thing is looking at you got to study in advance the organization that you're a part of and the industry, because in certain industries and certain organizations, that's what happens. And if you don't want to be a part of it, then you might have to do your own thing.
Okay, I think that was a great episode. I think we could probably end it right around there. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I will try and leave all the links to those TikToks. I know they were pretty long. We didn't finish all of them, so I'll leave the links to those in the description. Um, Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will catch you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Again, happy Mother's Day to
Happy
all the
Mother's
mothers.
Day, everybody.